95% of our clients, the first thing they say is, but I'm going to be hemorrhaging cash flow. The first thing they do is look at it when they go, there's red.
Yep. Yeah. Price is always a concern in the absence of value. And value is the most important part of this conversation.
I'm talking from Julien and Naz from ASO Wealth. G'day guys, welcome on.
Thank you, good to be here.
A client will get the most amount of value is when an advisor will help you convert your income and equity into predictable outcomes.
The best way to single-handedly shift your income is to get better at your job.
I always turn to clients and I say, I'm not going to run an adult daycare here.
Yeah, I love it. You feel rich on paper. We've met these people.
Yep.
They tell me, hey mate, I've got like 30, 40 properties. I do not feel richer than when I had 5.
It's just more headache than what you would think it is.
The fallacy also comes from arrival fallacy.
Retirement. It's a bad billboard. When you rest, you rust. And I see it all the time.
Success of money is behavior, time, and patience.
You can't out-train a bad diet. You can't invest with bad money behaviors. G'day everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. Strap yourselves in. This episode is going to be an absolute cracking chat with two of the boys that we do a lot of work closely with. I'm talking from Julien and Naz from ASO Wealth. G'day guys. Welcome on.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, good. If you're listening, what I typically would do is, most of our guests, I give them a briefing sheet, say, look, here's some of the things we're going to cover. I haven't for you guys deliberately. You guys are great talkers. You know your subject matter. You're highly experienced, even though you got baby faces. But I think that's what we're going to get the value from today is really just go have an honest, unplanned chat. And I'm going to ask questions that I would feel that a lot of listeners are tuning in would have as well, because you guys cover, as financial planners, you cover a lot of turf. And I think for the detriment to the financial planning industry is probably being a lot of red tape and a lot of over compliance. But then I think there's a lot of confusion around actually what does a financial planner do? And I want to preempt this chat for everyone listening. A broker's role is to work out your borrowing capacity. How much can I borrow? How much can I buy for? And to really work out that strategic loan, that loan strategy is what we'd call it. The buyer's agent comes in with a property strategy. The accountant comes in with a tax strategy. But 95% of our clients, as they grow in their investment property portfolio, the first thing they say is, but I'm going to be hemorrhaging cash flow. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter if you buy through trust, no trust, individual names, whatever, however way you want to structure it. The first thing they do is look at it when they go, we put repayments in front of them, the rental income comes in, the first thing they do is there's red.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what do I do to stem this cash flow rot? And that almost becomes the handbrake when it comes to building out a portfolio. So you can have the top 5 locations about where to invest in 2026, for example, but if you can't afford to hold 5 or buy 5, the locations become redundant. And that's why we very rarely cover off locations in our episodes, because we need to get the building blocks right.
Yeah.
And that's why I bring you guys in. And it might sound like a 101 question, but for people listening going, all right, I know what a broker does. I definitely know what a buyer's agent does. What's the role of a financial planner?
It's a really good question, Aaron. And I think we probably, in the thing you said is that impressions or sometimes misrepresentations of what financial advisors do. I think the funny ones we've heard in the past is he's the super guy. He's the
insurance sales is the big one. Yeah.
And it's like you're sitting about to take off and they say, the pilot walks in and they go, he's a glorified bus driver walking in. You never want that person to feel that way, and perception is reality. So if you are introduced that way, I do truly believe that does change the framework of what people think. But I think our industry has changed a lot, and it had to go through so much red tape and regulation to weed out things like product sales, insurance sales, and other things like that. But I think in this current day and age, I think a lot of people just feel that they don't know what the value is, what we actually really do. And they always think that a product is actually the thing that's being sold to them rather than any strategy or solution that's really trying to be unbiased or agnostic to what their circumstances are. So for us, that perception is really key. And I think that also comes a bit to the story of how it came to be. And I think it's probably good to understand that context. So GFC, 2008, global financial crisis, stocks are down. Fast forward, the recovery.
Bring your mic up if you want. Yeah, go for it.
The recovery comes through.
Yep.
And, Australian property, and if we put into property concept, it's definitely not a mature asset that you'd feel comfortable pivoting to given the opportunities that public markets have. Fast forward, probably 2015 is probably the first time we saw any type of financial advisor have some structural conversations around outside of equities or public markets.
Right.
That's when you start to look at infrastructure or commercial property. Still, direct resi was not something that any advisor would consider. Fast forward 5 years, you have the stories of great companies on public listed. You've got the Nvidia story. You've got the Mag 7 that came through. So there's still so much value in the advice of going, let's say, to direct public markets. But I think post 2020, it has become a real conversation around structuring and what asset classes are really useful for a client and what value they'll see from those asset classes. And I think that's the pivot point for financial advice, where we saw that there's enough data to suggest there's enough confidence in markets. There are structural issues regarding supply that meant the asset class is very credible, that can be, surgically inserted into a client's portfolio that would actually help them build that out. And I think that's part of where I think probably listeners haven't heard that from a financial advisor, is the fact that property is something we do look at.
Which is very much flies in the face of a lot of financial planners, which they're not pro property, for example, very pro shares, equities, ETF, whatever other way to invest your money, but it's never been the asset class of choice for a lot of advisors to going to property and go hard, for example.
Yeah.
And it's always like diversification is golden, for example, versus other people go, no, mate, if you stick to your bread and butter, if you stick to your niche, that's where you can make some incredible decisions. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Look, generally speaking, financial advice, businesses and advisors, there's still a lot out there that will specifically do shares, ETFs and listed markets only, and not look at property. They'll look at the life insurance piece, and they'll look at, 3 or 4 areas of people's financial situations and give advice there and scope out property. And a lot of the time it's because there's, if that's their business model, there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of the time that is their business model. It's what makes sense. There's a whole aspect to giving really good investment advice. But I think that's the point to the listeners or to anybody, is that you need to know if you're going to see a financial advisor, you need to know what they do or what they focus on as in terms of an investment piece, and whether they do include property, whether they do include, self-managed super funds, because even self-managed super fund, as an example, is quite a very specific area of advice. It can go all the way to aged care, so it really depends on the type of advice. But there's more and more to what Naz was saying just before, with the evolve of the industry over the last, whatever it is, 15, 20 years. There is more and more financial advice businesses that are being more and more broad in terms of their investment piece, i.e. including property. And that's changing in line with different things, with investment markets and so on, but also with pricing models that financial advisors have, which incorporates property as well.
Awesome. Thanks very much. If I just jump to a question I'm sure a lot of people listening would have, which is, I don't earn enough to warrant having a financial planner, or I don't have enough money to invest. So there's 2 questions. Let's start with the first one there.
Yeah.
I don't earn enough to justify having a financial planner. How would you guys tackle that question?
It's a really good question. I think price is always a concern in the absence of value. And value is the most important part of this conversation.
Is that easy to say because it's like asking a barber for a haircut, right? Of course they're going to say yes, unless they're
correct.
me.
But I think it's what we see, and it definitely is when people, that the value that an advisor would deliver to someone, let's say specifically, not just around property, but everything. But if we just focus on the property piece, a client will get the most amount of value is when an advisor will help you convert your income and equity into predictable outcomes.
Okay.
Right? You couple that with strategic thinking, sequencing, tax, and accountability. You've got the full package of someone who's going to look at things very broadly, who's going to work with your team. And I think when clients actually just take a little bit longer to sit with an advisor, speak to them, really give them the blood work. We connect health and wealth a lot
That's what we were talking about that before. Well, I think we'll come back to health and wealth later.
And it's for us to get the blood work to really analyze that and say, these are the things that you could be doing that you are not doing. And these are the opportunities that we can help you by building a great team around you to accelerate you to that outcome. It's converting that income and equity to that point.
Is the equation, and again, I don't want to oversimplify it because I know what you guys do. So it's not an infomercial around it, but spend less than you earn, invest more, save more, and have no leakage in your financial buckets. Am I oversimplifying this, do you think? Or I'm not trying to be facetious. It's just more to go, hey, this financial equation doesn't need to be overcomplicated.
No, it doesn't.
Is it just people lack accountability? They lack discipline. They don't know what they don't know. Where's the value coming into it?
Well, my comment there would be that we like simplicity. And so that's really good.
Well, complexity is the enemy here, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so to your point, no leakages, of course. And that, if we, kind of broaden the equation, that's one side of the equation. The other side is to make the right choices on the upside. Okay. And that is what we do really, really well, because we have a broad view of our clients' situation that a lot of the other professionals don't have. A really good example of that is cash flow. A lot of the time, for example, you as a broker, you've got an idea of the cash flow, but generally speaking, we've gone through every bit of detail of that. Not that we do a budgeting plan for people. That's not necessarily part of the
scope.
Not necessarily part of the scope, because a lot of people do that themselves, and we're not here to.
They should be doing it themselves.
That's right.
I've got to kind of pull the handbrake here and have this chat.
Yep.
The amount of clients that come to us going, I can't afford it, cash flow. I was like, that's the one thing I can't help you with, unfortunately. I can get you equity by revaluing, with 10 different banks. I can eke out borrowing capacity by structuring it here, going here, go to this lender and do some magic there. But the one thing I cannot do is cash flow. And that is your responsibility. And it's, like you guys saying, that's not our remit either. So if it kind of sits in the ether going, who's responsible for this cash flow?
It's what's really interesting. I always get a laugh in meetings. I always turn to clients and I say, I'm not going to run an adult daycare here.
Yeah,
I love it. That's
right.
The same thing.
And at the end of the day, if you've come here, and I like that you've got a book there, it's going from good to great. There are certain times, yes, financial advisors are going to have a hamstring around getting you to good at a certain point. There is a lot of accountability. Right, there needs to be discipline around what you do. And I think the question you really ask is, how does that happen with cash flow? I think it's working on an individual plan and then working on a collective plan, right? So we would sit down with a client and work out exactly and map their career path for them in the sense of where are you going, what's your opportunities, where are you seeing, how can you move left and right? We've had this conversation so many times and people first get shocked and then they do it themselves and go, thank you so much for helping me with that. We've had over the last 6 months, the amount of clients that increase their salary by at least 20-30% has been incredible. By really working with them.
That is probably the best way to single-handedly shift your income is to get better at your job.
That's right.
And then get a promotion.
And the scripts and dialogues become so different. And it's when the mirror gets turned on the person and they sit in front of an employer and say, look, I want to be paid X. And the reason I want to do that is I've actually sat down with a financial planner and the things they've mapped out for me is this is where I want to go. And these are the commitments me and my family have made. This is the targets we want to work towards. How do I make that kind of salary here? Right? You put it back onto the employer.
As an employer, I love that conversation. I can work with that conversation as an employer. Yeah.
And the motivation just drives.
Mate, great.
Right.
Great.
And look, if you're for the clients who are business owners, it's a different conversation entirely because they have even more control than what an employee would over their income. And so generally speaking, what we're doing, and I'll come back to your question in just a moment, but generally speaking, when that happens, and we've had the conversation around needing more income, opportunities just open up for clients, and that's where we go. Okay, what do? We put together a full strategy map for our clients. So we start with strategy first, which is whether we should invest into property, whether we borrow, whether we debt recycle, whether we take out equity for shares, and that's on the wealth creation side. On the flip side, at retirement level, it's a completely different conversation, of course. But there's a lot that goes into it at the strategic conversation. There's cash flow and asset modeling, all the things that help people make look into the future and make the right decisions today
with confidence.
That's exactly right. With purpose and with confidence.
That's the constant review that we get. But I think it's not about us. I think it's the whole industry. Is the advisor gives me confidence to make that decision, to make that leap. Because I think to the point, I think we're the only ones that actually sit in the cockpit and actually see everything. And it's not a lot of the time. It's a point in time. When you're writing up that loan, that's your point in time window into this client. For us, we run tracking tools for the whole 12 months, 12 or 24 months back, 12 and 24 months forward. You guys have the perception of the classic steak and Shiraz, where people have to become disciplined if they take out the mortgage, and they know that they'll have to sacrifice. But for us, we find the elasticity completely different. We will track them and say, you know what? And I've done this for my family as well. I know between December and March, there is no investing happening in our household. Between March and December is when we bury the hatchet and we really go through things. There's little learnings around cash flow that we've done, even for, and happy to share, is the fact that we've done spendless weekends. Right. And we,
big time.
Yes, you still spend money, but things like we went to Bilpin to do cherry picking, right? Instead of going to the cafe and having a $250 breakfast. I don't know how it's possible, but it is every time.
I don't know. I've got two small kids that now order adult sized meals.
Yeah,
it happens.
And doing those concepts, it's just a nudge, right? So we put trackers on people's spending, and then we nudge them. The notifications come through. Hey, you made a commitment not to spend more than $1,000 on alcohol a month. Hey, you've hit your limit. It's 3, you're on week 3. Next week, maybe don't drink. And it's actually, clients come back to us and go, that's so helpful. It just, sometimes it's being conscious. So many people say to us, you know what, I spend just because I have it. And I don't really have someone standing there and being accountable. And I think that's the value of advice. It's that coaching mentality. It's really coming in and saying, I'm going to hold you to account because there is a mission. You have tasked me to do this. If you like it or not, I'm going to be there and I'm going to keep you accountable.
And to that point, we usually will describe the value of advice into 3 different broad pillars. Obviously, there's a lot more, but from a broad pillar point of view, the first one is the money that you make off the advice. What's generally misunderstood is the amount of time that it can take. So some people might expect money made back immediately from the advice through investment returns or whatever it may be, but we can never promise, obviously, investment returns, right? The market determines that. What we can do is put in place the best strategy to get them to their goal with the highest probability, right? The second pillar, and actually on that one, it might take 1 year, it might take 2, it might take 5 years, but after 5 years, the compound of the advice far outweighs the fees that we charge, generally speaking. Second pillar is a lot of the time, and this is a different view on value. So there are different types of clients that will value the service for different reasons, and this one is the time saved, right? So a lot of the time, people go, you know what, I don't have the time to spend all of Friday night with my wife figuring this out. You do it. I don't have the time. That's a very simple one, but that's a lot of the time that's the good feedback that we get. And the third one is simply the expertise. People go, I'll pay because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. I don't know why I'm doing this. I've been told to buy property, but why? What's going to happen to my cash flow? And it really depends on people's levels of understanding and expertise.
And I think it's all wrapped up in trust, right? We love to talk about it. And I think the industry now is at this level that we can all agree that this is who we are as an identity. So there's a trust formula, and the trust formula is credibility plus reliability plus intimacy over self-orientation equals trust. So I think we all can say we're credible and we're reliable. Some people may be less reliable than others because they get busier at certain times, and sometimes clients, it is on the client to ask, do you have capacity to take me on? Asking, what do you do and how do you do it? But I think the intimacy is the key part. Is really that you got to get along. That advisor has to be your people. It's the same thing with any professional. You have to get along with the professional. But I think as an industry, we shouldn't have any self-orientation. Every advisor is walking in. This is how we're now trained. We've got AI note takers, right? So anyone could listen back in a meeting 10 years from here, and ASIC say, hey, by the way, why did you say that? So we all, if you came to me and said, what should I do in this instance? Every advisor should answer unanimously, it depends, right? It's because we won't have that, that self-orientation to say, you know what, I'm walking into this meeting to sell you X, Y, or Z.
Self-orientations, I think that's probably where the industry has lost a lot of distrust. Like you said, it's all these financial plans. I mean, we probably get the industry news daily. This planner's been jailed. This, they've taken off with the money. Like, and I think the media loves
that.
They love those stories because that gets headlines, like true crime podcast for people, right? Like, what's the one in the eastern suburbs? The chick that works.
Melissa Caddick.
She was Melissa Caddick. Like that just becomes like a pin-up for like, and you see, I think there was one recently, NAB employees, false documentation.
But a lot of the time, they're not actually registered financial advisors. They're never on the register. They're not actually governed by ASIC. Like Melissa Caddick was never a financial advisor. She was never actually registered on the register. She operated in a completely different space. So I think it's the mislabeling, but it is very difficult.
But you paint it with the same brush. That goes to, the footage of, the supercars getting hauled onto the, onto the tow trucks, and they're in the Hugo Boss or whatever, Louis Vuitton clothes getting handcuffed. That's probably the part. And I'd say as the broker network starts to get a lot more traction with people, I mean, we're hitting nearly 80% market share in terms of writing all loans. I feel like that's going to be our next frontier in mortgage broking, where the quick buck, self-interest, I win, you lose. As a customer, I'm the one that's winning, but I'll take advantage of you. Great marketing funnels, for example, that's the stuff that will win, but it's very short term. And trust that I think you guys subscribe to the same ethos. Very hard to gain, very quick to lose, particularly with a client. And you could lose trust by not being responsive, or hey, I missed a number in an email. And like, it's just very, very small things that can chip away for people. So we've got to tell everyone, like, hey man, we're not perfect. We'll make a couple of errors here and there. We're not incompetent, but when you go at pace or you go at speed or you're having a few clients that you're juggling in the air, we're not going to get it right 100%. So I think there's a two-way relationship here going, no client's perfect, no advisor's perfect, but that's what makes us a really good fit for each other, which is, hey, we're on the same page and there's alignment here as well.
I think to give you context on numbers, our industry went from 25,000 advisors to 8.
It's more like 30,000.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then your industry went from 8
the other
25.
way. Yeah, we're 23,000 mortgage brokers in the country.
So we've got a complete different effect. And I think advisors don't ever come out and speak. We see so much of media, marketing and everything, but financial advisors, because there's so much red tape, I can be held to account to everything I say.
Oh, you guys are drowned out by buyer's agent. I've got to tell you, even accountants, mortgage brokers, financial planners, drowned out by buyer's agents, which go, mate, I bought this property 20% up on the first year. They got sophisticated marketing funnels charging X dollars a pop, for example. I say they are almost the top of the food chain, which is a very interesting dynamic.
It is.
That they control everything.
But I think
good or rightly or wrongly, I'm not here to judge it, but just to say, these other industries which actually do a lot of the heavy lifting around the numbers, the strategy, for example, the where the property is located is the final piece of the puzzle. Somehow it's become the most important thing, and everything else kind of retrofits after that.
It's the product that people are searching.
There we go.
And so you have this in so many industries, right? And let's if we take a different industry approach, marketing. No one wants to go through. Let's go through rebranding. Look at your brand. What are they talking? No. Give me the LinkedIn post that I can post right now to get an outcome.
Correct.
It's the same thing that happens with us. For buyers agencies, the most comparable aspect, and we've had this in our industry for a long time, so we've seen it, is stockbrokers, right? Stockbrokers were the go-to people in our industry for wealth creation. They were heavily researched, initially it was, things were recommending, Wolf of Wall Street kind of situation. And they make jokes about it, but they were recommending Disney, right? And we know where Disney is now. But it's about, they were heavily researched, and it was about that final product. Just give me the stock name so I can go and buy it. And it's so equivalent at the moment. But we're selling very different things. They're selling short-term rotation. we're selling sustainable long-term growth. That's our
Therein
preemptive
lies the
bias.
challenge, fellas,
Mm.
because everyone wants the fast
Connecting.
Well,
results. I want the results now.
and I'll explain I'll explain a few things that we've seen where clients have come through and they and this is a really good example. It was about 12 months ago, and a lady came through and she had bought a property through a buyer's agent, and but it was done through her SMSF, and she didn't understand any of the SMSF rulings and stuff like that. And she, there was a couple of issues that happened that we fixed for her. But the point is that it happened that way around. It came from the top down, where there was no strategy, but there was just a property, right? And again, to your point, finding the right property and getting into that investment market is a great thing. But to bring it back, the way that we do it and the way that we believe holistic advisors should be looking after their clients is by determining a property strategy first, and then bringing in the buyer's agent to go, please not only validate, but also add, because you're the expert in the property field, add to what I've just put together.
Yeah, but I'm the buyer's agent, guys. I can't give you advice.
But it's what
right? Can you see like the customers the clients in the middle is going, hang on, the financial planning piece, like it's going to slow me down. I need to get into the market now because the market's pumping right now. And this is, by the time you guys do your property strategy and I give you all my documents and all my information, the market's already moved, and you with your us with our loan strategy, you guys with your property strategy or planning strategy, it's going to slow me down, and my money's best spent in the market.
100%. I think the best analogy I could come up with on the spot, right? If you sail out of Sydney Harbour and you're doing the Sydney to Hobart, and you've got a dock in Hobart, and this is why advice is so difficult. We're trying to make two ends meet, because it is all about combining lifestyle and financial outcomes into one. That's what we're actually in the room for. We're not there. I think some people misconceive that we're in the room to maximize returns. We're not there to do that. We're actually trying to make two ends meet. What are your goals? What are you trying to do with your lifestyle? What are you trying to do with everything you've got in front of you? What do you have to work with? How do we make those two things meet? And that's why we talk about sustainable long-term. And if you think about the analogy of coming out of Sydney Harbour, you've got the wind, the rain, the current,
the crew, the equipment.
So there's so much you need to battle. Sometimes it's not a linear path. You've got to go out to the ocean and come back in, and then you might, you hear all the stories. They went from far left to be the quickest in. They took the longer journey to be the quickest. So it's all those things, and that's a part of the difficult of financial advice, is because someone looks you in the eyes and says, well, in 10 years, will I actually get there?
Mate, spot on. Spot on.
Yeah.
That's I'm not saying that's your cross to bear, like that's your challenge, but it's almost to say that's that inner work, that monkey brain for a lot of people going, this is intangible. I don't know where I'm going to get to. But I guess if there's experience, there's empathy,
absolutely,
there's education that comes along the way, and people can see value, some people will pay it, no doubt.
Yeah.
Some people won't. And you can go on AI, you can GPT this yourself. And I see it all the time now.
Yeah.
They're actually, I don't know how we're ranking on GPT, but people are like, how'd you find us? GPT came up with a recommendation for you guys. All right, I'll take that.
Yeah.
But they've tried to do it themselves in AI. I think there's a DIY model.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and do it myself. I'm going to analyze my bank statements. I'm going to put it through NetBank. I'm going to kind of find, and I love those. There's always a market for a DIY person.
Absolutely. And people should.
Just like people don't engage a BA, I'm going to do it myself. Fantastic. But then there's the done for you model, which is I'm not abdicating responsibility. And we've spoken about this a lot on the potty, which is there's no abdication here. If you're entrusting someone, you're not flicking off responsibility. This is now a partnership. And you have to have skin in the game each way. So then it comes as a responsibility to you guys to go, and you're saying, help me, help you, give us all the docs, give us the information, where are you trying to get to? And we can only deliver when you actually have clarity on your brief by saying, and the throwaway line is on 150K net passive. And I see this day in and day out. You guys are laughing. I actually don't think it's going to be enough personally. I personally don't think it's going to be enough for people.
People say 150K net passive. Have you considered tax?
Mate, correct.
right?
Correct.
Because that number's already high.
Well, that's
looking at
tax is one
250.
part. What about all the property costs, the land tax,
Oh,
whatever else that comes with it? Inflation in that time, and yeah, sure, rents might go and keep up, for example, but and we we're talking about health and wealth. We're going to live for a long time, particularly if you're like dialed into your health, well-being, for example, longevity, helping your kids out if you have children or you're planning on having kids. That 150 is going to get swallowed up, and we're going to have lifestyles where people want to travel. Cost of living will just continue to surge as well. Like, I'm putting it out there. I think the 150 is a real fallacy.
And the fallacy also comes from arrival fallacy. Even if you got there, it's, when we work with retirees, this is a really interesting conversation. When we speak to retirees, we talk to them about rewirement, not retirement, right? Rewiring their brain of how it all works.
Dude, I think retirement, just as a side point, it's a bad billboard. I talk about a few bad billboards. One is people get mortgages. They think they're going to have noodles every night and tins of tuna. That's a bad billboard for getting a loan. I think people that say that are really bad advertisements for what it means to go into debt. Mate, you can have your cake and eat it too when it comes to getting a mortgage. Retirement, I think people get there. And what's the saying I read the other day? When you rest, you rust. And I see it all the time. I'm like, why did you want to give up work? And I think that they give up work because they don't actually love their job.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
They don't actually love. They're trying to get, and this might have a little bit of chili powder for people that are listening that want this passive income or the financial financial independence, retire early.
Yep.
They want that because they don't love their day job. I'm like, go and find a day job that you love.
Yeah.
And you don't have to retire early because you won't actually keep your mind engaged.
Absolutely.
That's right. And I think it doesn't have to, I mean, look, there's different things. One aspect is obviously that people not loving their job. Another might be perception, status. There's going to be a few of these things. There's a dream that's being sold out there.
Dude, it's bullshit. It is an absolute BS dream. I'll get going on this. I'm like, anyone that wants this FIRE movement, good luck to you. When your mates are working, you've got no one to hang out with. What's the point?
Loneliness.
What's the point?
Being outside the building.
You'll drive your partner crazy. You want to get a divorce? Hang out together at home all the time. You'll drive each other bonkers
through COVID, right,
mate?
So I think this is the thing we talk to clients about, and I was actually speaking to a client who's nearing that fallacy.
Yeah,
very close to.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm ready. Like, we're ready to start giving you your $15,000 a month.
Yeah, right.
How are you going to spend it? And he started going through everything. He's like, that's not enough. I said, well, mate, because you're going to find a new set of friends that are in the same group as you, and you're ready to spend. There's no purpose. So we don't believe in financial independence means different things as long as there's a purpose-driven aspect behind it, right? It's not about, I want to retire so then I can do whatever I want. Actually, you need to start doing that in your day-to-day life anyway, right? And that's the health and wealth connection we talk about. Spot on. And you can have these transition points, but I think what we start to get to is these arrival fallacies, and we see it all the time. When you get to that 45 or 50, and then, God bless, if you have kids, you start to look at that, and, looking at my family, I start to go, well, you know what? I was thinking I might work for 10 to 15 years. Now it's 25 because I want to leave something behind. I want to leave a legacy. I want to
set a role model for my kids that, hey man, you get up, there's purpose.
Absolutely.
We need some structure in our lives, whether you don't need maybe regimented structure. You do need some structure. You want to contribute to this economy, and you want to use your noggin as well. I'm calling it. I'm calling it. Just
I like
going
concepts of where the US, they shun it a little bit, but I do like it. The micro retirements. I think that is a real concept that people can actually look at that and say, I'm going to take a micro retirement. I'm going to take 6 months off and build that all up between jobs or within jobs, and actually take that time to spend with what you really want to do and find that purpose. That's more probable. What we look about on the passive income side is, don't look at the passive income. Look at the actual net number you're working towards, because the net number is way more important. That's actually going to give you purpose and drive to say, you know what, I need to get to this number with lots of structure. And what is that going to result out of? Because building, let's just call it a spade, building a resi portfolio, no matter how many properties you have, from 1 to 150, I've never met a client who's been able to execute a fire strategy just having a quantity amount of properties, the amount of complexities. All it takes is one great storm and a property.
Issues, costs, taxes.
Everything.
It's at the end of the day, we've had clients with $20-30 million plus of property, and it's actually more like they need our help more than what they would otherwise, because it's just more headache than what you would think it is.
And what they realize is the pivot that they need to happen is what they'll look at the bigger number, and you will need liquidity. You will need public markets to help you on this journey. If you think that that's the only thing you can get away with, illiquid property equity strips, and keep going, at some point you'll realize you need liquidity. Because
because you're asset rich, your cash.
That's exactly
you might
right.
have a $20 million, but you're still cash flow poor at that point. So you feel rich on paper, and mentally, we've met these people.
Yep.
And I'm like, they tell me, hey mate, I've got like 30, 40 properties. I do not feel richer than when I had 5. It just means I've got either more debt.
Yes.
Got high levels of expenses, for example, and I've got a lot to manage. Now, I've been a big proponent of building intergenerational wealth through property, and that does come with buying and building out a portfolio. But when the core focus is on this cash flow play, I'm like, you've got to build assets that you can then sell down, pay off some loans, for example, and then realize the gain. I'm not saying anywhere here, I'm right, you're wrong. It's just saying, hey, if you want to follow this formula, then capital growth and compounding is the way to build it to a certain level. Sell down, get to a net passive, for example. And like you're saying, that how the two ends meet is, okay, this is the formula to follow. But most people can't get to the 5, to the 10, to the 15 because they're hemorrhaging cash on the way through.
And then I'll ask you the question, what do you think becomes a bigger risk or the biggest challenge to this prophecy when you, let's say, build a 10 property portfolio, you've got your super, you've got other assets. What becomes your biggest risk then?
The biggest risk to anyone is their income.
So
their income.
All of a
because
sudden,
they are the biggest risk in their portfolio. That's why I say buying property or shares is your hedge, because that will compound while you're sleeping. But you get a CEO restructured tomorrow. And so many of our listeners, I think even for you guys, a lot of our crossover clients are our Henrys. High earners, not rich yet.
Yeah.
250, 350, 500K, $1 million incomes. The biggest thing that keeps them up at night is their job security and stability.
Yes.
So when you get to that, and you're even within touching range of your prophecy of 150,000 passive income, what's the likelihood of you losing your job in the next 5 years with AI? Likely. How long are you going to be? How likely are you not finding work for 6 months? Likely. That house of cards could fall. So you're putting so much onus on those pillars could actually break it. And that's where I think it's really, really careful, and clients need to be careful and considerate of what are they wishing for? But so many times that we've sat in meetings, even together and other parts, where we see conflicting goals. I want to retire, but also want this. We can't have both.
Correct. The math. I want a property, a positively geared property, but we want to pay less tax.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm sitting here going, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the second that you're making a positive cash flow property, you're paying tax now.
Yeah.
But you don't want a negatively geared property, but that's going to give you some tax back. But it just messes with your head sometimes.
People in reverse. Where we met a client that said, "Hey guys, I'm coming to you," and this is sometimes where clients, a bit of context. I think you should interview financial advisors and go, it's like a health check. Am I doing the right things? Do you think there's things you can help me with? So he came to us and they said, hey, we've got our home. We're considering a financial advisor. We've just sold our 2 properties. What do you think of that? And I said, okay, why'd you sell the properties? Oh, well, they started making money, so I've sold them. I said, well, hold on. They started making money and you sold them. Yeah, I want negative gearing.
Well, I sold out because it was the right time to exit.
And it wasn't about that.
Positively cash flow.
It was just as soon as it went positive cash flow, they sold. They were so sold on negative gearing, and that being the number one aspect of building property, that they missed the whole aspect of what it is they're actually doing.
Mm.
So those kind of instances, you actually get a little bit shocked and you go, but this is the aim of the game. You're trying to get into passive income. You're trying to grow this, but you've actually done something completely different. Now, I think that financial literacy, I think people do sometimes get embarrassed. That's why I think that some people don't see financial advisors, because it's like having a coach. I have the pilot's view and I get to see everything, and I can come in and be at your shoulder and say, you know what, that's not the right thing you're doing. I think you should be doing this way.
I'm glad you mentioned about coach, and I've brought Jodie Cooper on, one of my personal exec coach, and her job is pretty much every time is, as I talk, just going, is that a blind spot? And it's a very very gentle way of just pointing out a few shortcomings that I've got with my mentality or my actions, for example. And that hour and a half, 2 hours that I spend is pretty much like the little nudge that I needed, the kick up the butt. It's accountability, making me a better person, that when I go back out into the real world, I'm like, okay, I didn't know what I didn't know beforehand. And it's very much what you guys say around accountability on the finances side, going, all right, I was spending a little bit willy-nilly. The car lease that I've got, it's an ego thing. I could lose it. I could invest that money, for example. I mean, we speak openly around private school fees. I got no judgment. I'm a public school child. But, I can see the value in, educating your children. You do anything for your kids. I mean, you're a parent. But then we've got to go through, because that's a net cost after tax. So that's like acting your wage is a major conversation that we need to start having with people as well. And I mentioned to you guys before, if you're listening, Arthur Brooks has this really, really good, tight little video about what people can do with money. First thing most people do is buy stuff, thinking that I've worked hard, I'm going to go and buy stuff because that's generally going to make me happy. And mate, we've all been there. We all have nice things. I don't say that at all, but there's other things that may inherently give you more enjoyment as well. So being able to buy experiences, like, for us, have been open. We took our family on a small holiday recently, bucket list stuff. And you're like, the memories that have come off the back of that, cherished. And we've created a new, unlocked a new level with our family going, we've done that together. Isn't that amazing? Right. You can buy your time back. And, for us, maybe that means a bit of house help, whether it's the laundry or maybe that's the lawn being done, for example, because we're time poor. And, that provides employment to someone else that's their sweet spot.
Absolutely.
You can save it and you can give it away. Yeah. Or you can invest it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part where, how does someone then have these buckets without it feeling like a financial planner going to come in here going, donkey on the head, going, stop spending money. Like, I've got no enjoyment anymore. How do we find a good, healthy balance where my money can flow into these, barefoot buckets?
It is highly psychological, and there are going to be people that want to spend on their lifestyle differently to others. There are people that we look after that earn less than others, that spend more on lifestyle and that have less to invest at the end of every month. But if that's what they want to do in the relationship that they want to have with us, so be it. We're not here to tell them how to live. We're here to tell them how to take the next steps and how to create their wealth. It's really as simple as that. And the way we do that is when we take their whole budget, we'll take their core living. If I really simplify, we'll take their core living needs, whatever they need to live, including rent or mortgage or whatever it is. We'll take their entertainment or their fun money that they need to, whatever, the Friday night restaurant or whatever it is.
Which is usually double what core expenses is.
It sometimes is, that's right.
People ask us these questions like, I'm spending $500 to $700 a week on groceries. Is that normal? I said, you're spending double that on entertainment. Maybe we should ask that if that's normal. Right? Where are you going to create your own disciplines?
Yeah. And look, if they don't ask us, we don't dive too deep into that immediately, because we're not here to judge. We're here to take what they have, take their situation as it is and go, okay, based on where you are, and we take the different scopes, which is scope of wealth creation, whatever that means, whether it means property or shares or ETFs or whatever it may be, the scope of superannuation planning and optimization, super contributions, super investments, life insurance, whatever it is, the different scopes and areas of people's financial life. But to bring it back to the budget, what always happens is at the end of the month, there's going to be a net cash flow. You go, okay, after you've provisioned for holidays and everything you need to live, you have, whatever it is, 5,000 extra every single month. And then with that,
is there a tech tool that someone listening right now can just go, hey, plug it into a computer and away we go?
There's lots of calculators, and I think it's finding, I think a really good tracking budgetary tools, right, that can look forward and back and give you a calendar where you can plot things on, and it gives you nudges to say, hey, by the way, you are working towards this goal. You have a major expense like your car insurances or your holiday, whatever it's coming up. You need to start saving more. And I think that people just need to actively want that information to be nudged towards them. But I think the biggest part that people need to really understand, and this is kind of coming back a little bit out of the weeds, we see people seek advice after they made mistakes, and that's quite sad.
What mistakes are we talking to, if you don't mind me asking?
We typically see, let's use a couple as an example. Someone made an investment call and said, let's go build this, let's go buy that. And it's not worked out exactly how they planned. And then usually one partner says, enough of enough. I don't want to fight anymore about money. Let's get someone who's going to sit between us and actually help us look at this with take off the beer goggles, and let's actually take a really pragmatic view at this. And it's typically, that's where we see a lot of clients come in and we say, the question is, why did you come and see us? And it's usually they go, oh, we want this. And then after 2 or 3 meetings, they usually open up and say, look, we usually fight a lot about money. And it's uncomfortable for them to open up that way. But then they say, you know what, we really want, and where you see the relationships develop from there is the client says, look, one of the partners says, if there's a question and you don't understand, call Naz or call Jules and understand. And I think that's part of, we see that a lot in the industry. People seek advice after they made a few mistakes, right? It's really easy when you're making money to have this fallacy that you're invincible. It's once you stumble, life is not linear. Things will happen along the road and you could have extreme success. And then at some point you lose hold of it. You really don't know where this ship is going. And so fast you've done so well, but then you look ahead and you go, wow, I got myself from nothing to good, but I want to get to great. I want to get to that fallacy of $150,000.
Yeah, it's still so far. That. I mean, Bernie and I, that's probably one thing that, it's so close to us, like the finances is what we do daily. Even that becomes, a major sticking point. Even our relationship, we've been so open with it going, we're susceptible just like everyone else. It's just very much close to home because this is our day job. I think so. I've got a huge amount of empathy. Somehow I've got into like some of these, couples podcasts and things like that. And they say a relationship can survive, what's the word when you cheat on someone? Infidelity. But money struggles will bring a relationship undone. I'm like, that's insane. I'm not advocating for infidelity here at all. Yeah. I'm just saying like you can overcome that, but you can't band-aid financial pressure.
And we see actually what's really interesting, and I'll share, clients who have shared to us that I sometimes ask them, I said, can you explain to me why you came here? And they said, oh, we argue about money. I said, okay, that's fantastic. I said, again, what were the problems? And they explained to us and they said, you know what, we actually realized we needed to come see you after a psychologist helped us.
Oh, right.
I was like, explain that a little bit further. And they said, well, actually the psychologist started telling us how we should act with money and started saying, so we don't become resentful to one another. Let's split things 50-50, right? You spend on what you can spend.
Yep.
I spend on what you can spend. And then what we do for the family, we combine together. And we see that quite a lot. And we're kind of the puzzle makers. We see, 12 or 15 different personalities. And we sometimes say, yeah, well, if it's good for this person, it's definitely going to be good for you, but not all of it. Part of the recipe is going to be good for you. Maybe you don't like chili, so I'm not going to add the chili, but the rest of the recipe is really good. And that's kind of the things. And we start to go, oh, wow, okay. And you start to really understand that when you come in, some people have the psychology of money and it's very, very different. Someone can come from a different background. Someone can come from different families, different situations, and it's really, really difficult to put that for us. So what we see as the success of money is behavior, time, and patience.
Cool.
And then if you link that back to health and wealth, what do you need to be healthy? And you need to have a great diet, you need to exercise, and you need to sleep. You don't need a PhD in biology to understand how muscles repair. You just understand that to do, to be healthy, you just need to work out.
Yeah,
Sometimes
just like you can't out-train a bad diet, for example, you can't invest with bad money behaviors. Similar analogy.
And an analogy we always use over the phone together, and I use it quite a lot, is if kale is really good for you. But if you just ate kale, you stop eating everything, just ate kale. First day, it's fine. 7 days later, it's fine. In 3 months' time, your body will start to really, really struggle and have lots of problems because you need to have a balanced diet. And that's why it's so difficult when advisors say depends, because we're not offering a final product. We're trying to make 2 ends meet. So we then start to go, you know what? It's one thing is not going to save you. There's so many different aspects you've got to do to get there.
It's highly bespoke, highly individualized. Every single client has a different strategy. That's the time that we spend with every single one of them. We spend whatever amount of time it takes to get the right plan in place. And, to give you an example, I'll give you an example of one client. There are a couple who, we put forward a strategy to purchase an investment property, to use home equity to purchase an investment property. They both, household income is about 500. So they had, based on where they were, definitely had enough cash flow to be able to do it. But based on different preferences and reasons in their circumstance, they didn't want to borrow more money at that point in time. So we said, okay, well, what's an alternative solution? In this case, we went down a investment portfolio path. Generally, we'll use ETFs as the building blocks for that. We'll add different assets where need be, but that's the starting base of the building blocks.
So how much would they, out of curiosity, how much gets them started or gets them in the game for ETFs?
Look, it really depends.
It depends, but I'm asking the questions that people listening go, how much can I get?
Depends. Look, you really don't need much, and not need much means you can start with as much as whatever it is, right? $10,000 if you really wanted to. As long as you have, I think this is the point. You can't just throw in $10,000 in there and then expect something to happen. You need to have a disciplined approach to your investment journey and investment strategy. And for these guys, it's contributing X amount per month to their initial contribution of $100,000 or more for these guys, right?
And it's blending the strategies. It's them developing confidence. They've never done this before, so they wanted to start small. Then they have the consistency. We then get the discipline, right? We get the right behavior. So we tell clients, I don't care if you put 100, 10,000 or $1 million in. What I'm actually more curious about is actually the behavior. How much are you going to tip into this? How much are you going to sacrifice into this plan? How much are you going to put towards the future? Because we're getting them ready. And this is how we get people ready for, let's say, property or buying their first home. I say, well, if you want $1 million mortgage, it's $8,000 a month. I need you to be in the gym saving $8,000 a month. So if we're doing it through shares, let's put $10,000 in. Doesn't matter. And let's do $8,000 a month from there.
And that recreates habits. So if we say that these guys are putting in, as an example, $8,000 a month, they can shift the dial on that. It's a share portfolio. It's not a debt repayment. So it's not mandatory. So if they wanted to drop it to 4, they could drop it to 4. And as Naz was just saying, that gets them ready for what the property is going to be when it's $6,000 a month of minimum debt repayments. You go, okay, well, these guys are ready and they know what it takes to build those habits.
It becomes addictive, right? Because they see how it starts to grow and compound. And then they go, hey, Nazi, if I drop it from 4 to 8, what does a 10-year number look like? And they'll see it drop dramatically. And they go, no, I'll stick to 8. Those expenses can wait. Because I think it's once the behaviors start changing and we tell clients, give us the time and your patience and it will all pay off. Some people need a slower burn. Some people move really, really fast and want the whole comprehensive portfolio. Like you said it perfectly. What can you borrow? We change that and flip it. What can you buy? Right? What you should be buying? To work into those circumstances. I think it is very much about the client's ability to sacrifice, but also see the end point. See, well, how much variance or what elasticity will I create by doing these certain action items? And I think once people see it, once they work with a planner and say, well, if I did X, Y, and Z, and what about if I changed it like this? And they see the elasticity of the outcomes, people go, you know what? No, I'm really going to stop doing that. And once they're conscious and they're aware, magic happens. And that's what we saw with incomes. That's what we saw with debt, and everything. It's sometimes it's the conscientious brain that goes, you know what, I've got to change. And
Yeah, thanks. I think your point earlier, Jules, which was no two clients are the same. I think even where people have been 3 years ago to where they are now,
absolutely,
that their life could have changed. I mean, you take us, two very small kids, both in daycare, paying exorbitant childcare fees, for example. And we're coming out of that next year, where two kids are in school, for example. It's a very different financial position.
Absolutely,
very different. Like the disposable at that point, or where our incomes have even got to over the last, that time period, that's all changed. Our portfolio has changed as well. So it's something that's like, it's never this set and forget to go, right, the strategy's done. It's like our will. It's had to keep being updated on a pretty regular and consistent basis because things have changed. We've evolved, we've matured, for example. We may have more now, or our risk has changed, our profiles adapted as well.
You've got a family, and all of you guys are different in the way you see the world. Look at us three. We had a coffee just beforehand, and all of us ordered completely different coffees. Same outcome, but very, very different needs.
But to your point, what those changes in your life will create, and Naz and I talk a lot about this, it creates sprinting seasons of wealth creation.
Yes.
And it creates, risk adjusted seasons where you really slow yourself down and you go, okay, well, at this stage of my life, which might be 6 months, it might be 2, it depends on, again, it depends.
I'm in a winter period.
Yes.
Winter period.
Whatever it is.
You need to keep it this tight.
The amount of times for people that, okay, we're on mat leave, we're going to have one, but we're thinking about having a second. Hey man, you just accept the fact that you might be locked out of the market. You're not in a summer season or a spring season. You're in a winter or an autumn when it comes to just bunker down, enjoy this time with your young babies and kids, for example. There's enough financial pressures, enough stress, sleepless nights, kids, juggling, relationships. Just focus on that. And then come out of that into your spring when the kids are coming out, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example. And that might be a time period to catch up on a few lost years out of the market. Now we're back to 2 incomes. There's stability, there's security. Okay, let's go again.
Yeah,
and I think there's a level of awareness that doesn't happen with a lot of these money podcasts, a lot of investing, people just going, get into the market, do it now.
Must be now.
Got to be now.
Has
and
to
if
be
you don't
now.
buy, if you don't do it our way, you're wrong, we're right. I really just want to have this conversation with people. And I think particularly when I've listened to a podcast with Bernie, what we get out of it, especially around, because I don't listen to any podcasts. I don't, because again, it's too close to home.
Yeah.
But it was a really good one. It was Morgan Housel on Diary of a CEO. I absolutely loved it. I said to Ben, let's listen to it on our way back from Barrel. And we sat there and like, what I heard versus what she heard was so different. I was like, how did you get that interpretation? We're both listening to the same thing. And that's, I think, when it really dawned on me, because we listened to it together, but we had a conversation about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Just our two interpretations were wildly different.
Do you know what's really interesting about what you just said is that, generally speaking, I mean, I listen to podcasts when I'm on my own. I don't really listen to that with other people. And so to get that point of view really is getting me curious as to, listening to something with someone else and go, what was your point of view? Because if that's
pause it and go, what?
What did you take out of that? Because what happens here, what we're taking out of this is that if whatever it is, X amount of listeners listen to your podcast on a weekly basis, it's possible that every single person is taking a different, like everyone will take a different value out of it. That's a given, but everyone might take a different message out of it, which is not always intended.
Let's take a couple just to jump in for you.
Absolutely.
One person might be curious about getting a financial planner, and one person, their family had a really bad experience with a financial planner. Yeah. Don't trust them. And so the other person's going, we shouldn't be in a financial planner. And the other person's just like, shut this down. Yeah. We're not doing a financial planner. We can do it ourselves, for example. It's like, okay, that's not a conversation anymore. That's like my way. No, it's like a yes, no conversation. Whereas if you can listen to it, they're going, all right, and this is not spooking you guys, but it's just say, oh, okay, I'm a bit curious about what a planner does. Let's just go to the next step of, okay, is this for us? Are we at the right time to invest time and money, energy into this relationship?
And I was just going to add, there's something that we ask our clients. I think most advisors do anyway. I think in our age category, I think the person needs to reflect who you are. But there's a question we ask just before they sign the engagement. We send it and then we do a phone call straight away.
Right.
And we say, what are you going to value most out of this relationship? Right. So I'm very clear about what I need to deliver for you outside the numbers. And usually one partner is like, no, it's all about the numbers, right? I want to see outcomes. I want to see this. Okay. What kind of numbers you want to see? How I can't promise you anything, but I can definitely make sure the shifts and the kinetic shifts are there so you can see that the progress is being made, right? So that's kind of like the sporting director going, I want to see, you know, I don't care if we win 2-1 or 1-0, I just want to win. Then to the opposite side, the other partner says, you know what, it's all about trust for me, is that I can make a decision, I can really work with you, and that you give me so much confidence in the decision-making process. You've got these widely different expectations between two people in the same household. And you're meeting completely different sets of expectations. One is around confidence and trust and having the ability to share, to the other one just looking at the scoreboard. So that is why the coaching seat is not that easy. That's why always the answers are depends. It's always about the person, because the expectations are completely different from even the two people in the same household.
Yeah, and look, what again, because we treat everybody differently, what you can expect, not just us, strategic financial advisors, what they should be able to deliver is clarity, is real strategic planning in the creation of wealth through different asset classes, unbiased, right? Unbiased to either property or to shares. And I think the best way to put it is, you should be expecting quality out of your financial decision making. And at the end of the day, it's an investment, right? So when we look at it as, what are we paying for a financial advisor? Well, it's just like a buyer's agent that, does a transaction into something that's going to contribute to your wealth creation plan. But really they're charging you a fee, just like an accountant. And at the end of the day, everyone's got a different value that comes to the piece of the puzzle, and it's up to you to see what you value out of that service.
I know it's easy for us to say that we are an investment, but we are a service. It's not a transaction for us. For us, it's actually the real, the quality we get out of, helping clients is actually seeing them grow year after year, achieving those hurdles, that sustainable growth, that future-proofing aspect, and actually seeing them achieve some of these outcomes. That's why we do this for. It's not about having the transaction and going, okay, they've done that, see you later, I won't see you for 12 months or 2 years. That's our job satisfaction.
And I think a really good analogy that we use sometimes is what a personal trainer does for their customers. Because you could, we all train here, and we do it on our own. Sometimes we
some more than others,
and sometimes we might see a trainer for a different reason. But it's the people that have a consistent personal trainer that will see the shifts in the training for different reasons and different goals at different times of the year. And sometimes it might be for strength training, sometimes it might be for a very specific sport. But there's always going to be accountability to a personal trainer that's going to create a strategy, implement it, and keep them accountable to it.
Great. I love it. Gentlemen, thank you very much. This is why I didn't want to give you preload any questions beforehand, because I knew we'd cover a lot of turf today, guys. And if you're listening and you're curious, we'll include the details for the boys at ASO Wealth. I want to be very clear. Anyone that comes on the podcast never pays to be on it. We've never commercialized it. No one's farming or fishing for business. I want to put that fair and square on the table. You guys are coming in here because we've had mutual clients together. You guys jumped into our property accelerator the other month and kind of popped the hood on a few questions. And I think the community really appreciated that as well. I'll wrap up there and say, look, if that's something that you're interested in, you've been curious to find out how do you get into the property accelerator community, run that on the second Wednesday of every month, 7:30 p.m. Sydney time. Hit us up, drop us a message, go through the website, put accelerator in there into a little pop-up box, and we'll get in touch. But that's what I think it's all about. It's the going far together, the journey shared. Hey, you do that, I'll do this. Community. For example, is wealth building is a team sport.
Absolutely.
It's a team sport. Everyone's got their role to play as well. And again, if you've loved this chat and you think, hey, look, I want to get my partner on the same page as me financially, maybe it's something that you just guys, hey, if it's good. Well, I think we were nearly gone for an hour. It's a good hour drive, or 30 minutes to work and back. Stop it, listen to it together, and go, okay, what did you get out of this? What did I get out of this? And how do we get alignment? Because you can't build a house of two different blueprints, right? you need alignment as a couple if you're investing together. And I think that's something that's really close to my heart because I've been out of alignment. We've been in alignment. And let me tell you, in alignment's far more enjoyable and fun personally. So, hey, listeners, thanks very much for tuning in. If you've got any feedback, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to get in touch with the boys, we'll include their details as well. That's a wrap for another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. We'll talk soon.